Hi there, my name is Alison Fay. I serve as Director of JWRC Resource Center, and welcome to another wonderful edition of Friday Storytime. Today we are reading the book, The Dragon Who Liked to Spit Fire. And I'm gonna look up the author here in 2 seconds. It is by Judy Varga, who also did the pictures. Ooh, Judy was able to do words and pictures. Now, I don't know if you can tell on the video screen that this is an old book. It's from 1961. It's a book that I loved when I was a kid. And it's funny, sometimes when things are older, we might think that we might think that newer is better, but not always. Sometimes things that are old or things that have been passed down to us can be really, really great resources. We just want to look at it and see what it's telling us today. And I love that this book from 1961 still has a good message today. It's not always the case. That's why we want to look at it and think about it. But this one is a good one. So we'll read an older book today, The Dragon Who Liked to Spit Fire. A little retro Friday story time, as the case may be. So The Dragon Who Liked to Spit Fire by Judy Varga. Once there was a little dragon named Darius. He was a sweet, gentle little dragon, and he lived all by himself in a deep, dark cave. All day long he slept, and all night long he spat fire, pink, blue, and many colored fire. And sometimes he spat a purple fire with orange sparks. Spitting fire is what he liked to do best. One day, a little prince named Frederick lost his way. He came to this deep, dark cave and found Darius merrily spitting fire. Because they liked each other at once, Frederick asked Darius to come and live at his castle. Darius has a new friend. I would love to, answered the dragon politely. I'm rather tired of this gloomy old cave, but your people may not like dragons. They might get terribly frightened when they see me spit fire, and life without spitting fire would not be much of a life for a dragon. If you stop spitting fire where people can see you, Frederick agreed, then you'll be perfectly safe. No one at my castle has ever seen a dragon before. No one will ever know you are a dragon. You can spit all the fire you like when we're alone. I rather like your many-colored fire. Darius thought and thought, and finally he said yes. He had been lonely for a long time, and he wanted to be friends with Frederick. Darius promised to never spit fire where people could see him. They left his gloomy cave and went to live at a castle. Everyone liked Darius at once because he was so sweet and gentle. How quaint, said the ladies of the court when they met him. They made him sweets with their own lily-white hands. How delightful, said the gentlemen of the court. They taught him how to play fetch with a golden ball. What a gentle pet for Frederick to play with, said the king. He presented Darius with a medal on a golden chain. The little dragon slept in a basket by the little prince's bed, and he followed him around like a dog wherever he went. But Darius never could spit any fire. The castle was always full of people, and they were never alone. When Frederick took the little dragon deep into the forest, someone always followed. Darius began to sulk. One rainy day, when they couldn't go outdoors, Frederick and Darius were playing in the dark corner of the throne room. The king was fast asleep on his throne, and the queen was busy with their sewing. The ladies and gentlemen of the court were looking out the window. No one was paying any attention to them at all. I'm going to spit a little fire, whispered Darius. Just a tiny little bit of pig fire. And before Frederick could stop him, the little dragon spat. But Darius was terribly out of practice. He was also very excited. So instead of spitting a little bit of pink fire, he spat an enormous amount of orange fire, and the royal banners all went up in flames. The little dragon tried to blow them out before anyone noticed, but the more he blew, the more fire he spat. He tried to beat out the fire by thrashing his spiky tail around and made a lot of noise. Everyone began to stare. He behaved so much like a dragon that everyone realized, oh, he's a dragon. How dreadful, said the king. All this time, me again, and never even knew it. I must get my medal back. Darius must leave the castle at once before he brings terrible harm to Frederick. Please give him another chance, begged the little prince. He'll never harm me, even though he is a very disobedient dragon. But the king would not listen. "You can't have a dragon for a friend," he thundered. Because he was frightened, he muttered angry words about throwing Darius in a dungeon if he ever came near Frederick again. The little dragon put his medal down at the king's feet, and he left without looking back even once. He ran back to his cave, and he spat fire to his heart's content. He spat fire all night long and all the next day too. He took a little nap, and then he spat more fire, all the colors he could think of, and a new kind that was white with little stars. He had a very good time. The days passed by, and then the months, but the little dragon wasn't happy anymore. He missed his shiny medal. He missed the sweets from the ladies of the court that they used to make for him. He missed playing fetch with the ball that the gentlemen of the court had given him. But most of all, he missed his friend, the little prince. He was lonely in his dark and gloomy cave. Every day he wandered down to the forest, hoping Frederick might happen to ride by so he could catch a glimpse of him. One day, as he waited, he heard the sound of trumpets. He saw the whole court, with the king and Frederick in the lead. They were going on a hunt. Suddenly, a wild boar rushed out of the forest, charging straight at Frederick. All the hunter's arrows were missing him, and the little prince was in great danger. The little dragon darted from behind the trees. You remember the king said that he would throw him in the dungeon if he ever came near Frederick again, but he saw his friend was in danger and needed him. So he stood right in front of the boar and spat fire, a purple fire with orange sparks. The boar turned and rushed back into the forest, and the little prince was saved. Yay! Then Darius stood with his head bent in front of the king and waited for a punishment. The king cleared his throat 3 times and did not know how to begin. Kings don't like to really admit when they're wrong. He was a very just king, so he cleared his throat a 4th time, and he said, "It will be rather nice to have a dragon around the castle. Frederick could never have had a better, more faithful friend than Darius." He took off his own medal and hung it on the little dragon's neck, and everyone cheered, and they all went home. Darius stayed at the castle with the king and Frederick. The king had the dragon's picture embroidered on the new royal banners to remind that everybody about how the dragon had saved Frederick's life. And every night, Darius sat on the castle walls, spitting beautiful colored fire for everyone to see. After all, he was a dragon, and spitting fire is what he liked to do best. So thinking about some of the lessons in that book, as we think about the 11 for Jacob, one of the things in the 11 for Jacob is to be a good friend. And in this book, Darius was a very good friend to Frederick. He was worried about that Frederick was in danger, and so he helped his friend. And so sometimes being a good friend can be an easy choice, and sometimes it's a hard choice. And in this case, the dragon did the important thing to be a good friend to Frederick. 2 of the things that I think about, that I wonder about when I read this book, and it's often good when we read books to ask wondering questions, is I wonder about why they decided that they needed to keep the dragon a secret. We know it's not really a good idea to keep secrets from the people who take care of us, especially if it's about safety. And I think in this case, when I wonder if they would have gone to the king right away and said, "This is my friend who's a dragon, let's make a plan," if that would have worked better. Because when we keep secrets about safety, that usually doesn't go very well, and it makes people feel unsafe and scared. And so we want to be able to talk about things, especially about safety. I wonder about that. And another thing I think about when I read this book is I think about how happy I am that the dragon could be himself. I wonder what it's like to feel like you can't be yourself sometimes. I wonder if that gets a little bit exhausting and can get a little bit tiring. In this book, Darius was able to be who he was. He's able to be a dragon and still find people who appreciated him. And I think it's important to know that it's okay to be yourself. We don't have to hide the parts about us that make us different. Because in this case, as soon as people realized who Darius was and what he was about, they loved seeing the colors that he could make at the end of the book. And so we don't have to hide the parts of ourselves that make us different or unique. We can celebrate those differences. And that's another good, important part about being a good friend and also about being understanding, is celebrating the things about us that make us different. So thank you for tuning into Friday Storytime. and have a great week.